Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. So we are into earnings season, and that makes these Fridays uh, really kind of more important, right? Got game planning for like the next week. Uh, kind of lay out the strategy as things really start to pick up because once we get into like the heart of earnings and you have 50, 100, 200 names reporting on a night or a morning, it can just be like super overwhelming. So I hope these earnings on the radar videos help you in that sense. Kind of get a plan, look ahead, try to get some sort of strategy in place, so you're not like just um, caught up in the moment, just being overwhelmed with all the names, not really having any sort of roadmap. All right. So first things first, Monday before the open. Well, Monday we're closed, so there's nothing before the open, right? So I was gonna say nothing before the open or after close, but that's because the market's closed. It's the MLK holiday. So I hope you guys all have a great long weekend. Tuesday before the open, Halliburton. All right, so $1.25 is what's priced in here. Schlumberger almost always reports before Halliburton, and because they're so similar, kind of removes some of the uncertainty. Schlumberger was solid. That was today. Numbers were solid. Halliburton's up a little bit off of that, but overall, Halliburton's coming off its own solid quarter here in October. Stock has been better. I feel like the chart looks pretty solid, coming off a solid number. Schlumberger was solid. You get the theme here. Probably view this from a more bullish perspective, but I don't know if it's going to be a huge mover. But overall, I feel like the action seems more bullish on Halliburton. After the close Tuesday, so some tech names. Here we go. IBM, 6 points is what's priced in here, and it's really all about whether they can turn the corner because expectations are low, and the stock really hasn't done anything, hasn't participated in the last few years of tech rally, right? Um, to me, the option pricing looks low compared to the recent average too, which is a little unusual, especially because you have a really clear gap above, pretty big area of support below. So I feel like I would maybe approach this slightly from the bull side, like a slight bias, but I also think that the options priced at six seem like they leave room. It could really move more than that in either direction, in my opinion. So I think this is one of the more interesting setups of the week. Netflix. All right, definitely one of the big reports. I personally think this is a very tough setup this quarter. Stock obviously acting strong. I mean, it seems like everything is rallying right now. Well, minus IBM, but the last two quarters were pretty bad for Netflix. July it actually got hit. October it didn't get hit, but it doesn't mean the number was good. So more competition keeps entering the picture, and it may not take a toll this quarter, but it seems like it's going to continue to be like an overhead weight on the stock. And I don't know how much downside it would have because right now tech is so strong and it seems like they want to like buy dips in tech. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of downside, but also, I mean, based off how bad the last two quarters were, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of upside, especially with like more competition entering like the landscape. So I don't have a lot of conviction with it, and 26 to me seems kind of on the high end, just based off of like recent action. So I mean, I'd either look at like really low cost, like low risk strangles, like low debit, or probably just leave this one alone. All right, UAL also Tuesday after the close. Actually, all like the rest of like the big airlines report next week. Delta was this week, and then basically every major carrier will be next week. So 4.25 was priced in here. To be honest, I don't trade the airlines very often. Um, on occasion, maybe, and I just don't see like a real compelling trade here. Especially versus Delta, which to me looks more interesting because it's trying to get up through like a really big area of like multi-year resistance. So UAL, you look at the chart. I mean, it doesn't look that interesting. It's not really going anywhere, and it's not really coming off a couple. It's not really hasn't really moved a whole lot the last couple quarters. So I just think I'm going to be on the sideline for this. Same thing with AAL, JetBlue, and Love, which report later in the week. I don't really have much feel for it. Haven't traded them recently, and to me, the charts don't really look that interesting, so I'll probably just leave those alone. Before the open Wednesday, big chip name here. So ASML, 20 and a half points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options, though, so you're praying for some time. Um, so this obviously has just been on an incredible run. So it's a semi supplier. It's not like it's not like an Intel or Taiwan Semi which reported this week, but it's a semi supplier. Just great run. Thing is, expectations are pretty high, and it had like a really sharp run into October earnings. Had a solid number in October and then sold off. So like the chart seems kind of similar to what it did in October and sold off after that. So it's kind of like a similar pattern there. If you're looking at a trade on this, you could possibly entertain Lamb LRCX or AMAT AMAT because those are pretty good sympathy candidates, and those options won't be pricing in an earnings next week, right? Because they don't report next week, so they could react to ASML. The options aren't as expensive as ASML's. Also Wednesday before the open, J&J, so a huge healthcare name. 325 is what's priced in here. So they didn't do anything at the JP Morgan conference. They didn't give any numbers. So this earnings is actually going to be an event versus some of the other ones, which probably won't be that volatile. And when I go out a few years, so like a longer term chart, you can see how important the current stock price is, right? I mean, right at the top of a multi-year resistance. So, the numbers have been solid recently. The reactions to earnings, maybe not so much, more mixed. With the way that the stock has moved up into this level, and the fact that it's like a 3-year resistance, it seems that like the options are priced a little bit low. So I think that there could be like room either way. So might look at like a strangle or a straddle in this one. Wednesday after the close. All right, LVS Casino. So this will be the first of the casinos to report, and just because it's the first, that to me usually means like more volatility, just because it's more uncertainty, right? This and a lot of the other names have been on really big runs, and it's right at the high. And interestingly, LVS has actually missed the last 2 quarters in a row. So, huge run, not very consistent in terms of delivering. So that's not a really good, not a very good setup. I mean, I feel like pricing's decent, but based off of the last couple quarters and the move it's had, I'd probably be favoring like the bear side on that. Teradyne, so kind of an under the radar chip stock. 7 points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options though. You can see just like a really incredible chart too. Looks fantastic. Kind of like a little bit of like a flag up here around 70. Um, you know, it is up a lot, but it to me seems like there could still be some more upside just based off how strong the last few quarters were. So it might not have 7 points of upside like the options are pricing in, so wouldn't need to get risk down. So maybe like spreads or flies or something along those lines. Texas Instruments, so another big chip name. 6 points is what's priced in here. So this had it was one of like the rare weak reports in the semis last quarter. It got hit real hard, but it's come all the way back and it's hanging basically right at its 52-week high. So overall, kind of a tough setup, right? Because come all the way back, hanging right at its 52-week high, but last quarter was pretty bad. So this to me, not a setup that I would have a lot of conviction with. So might be one where I just wait and see what they have to say because if it's good, then maybe there'll be an opportunity after. If it's bad, then I feel like it's not something I probably want to be involved with anyway. So I'll probably just be on the sideline for it. All right, so Thursday before the open, like I said, AAL, JetBlue, Love, probably not going to do anything with those. UMP, big rail, 7.5 points was priced in here. I mean, like the chart looks like it could be explosive above 180. You can see what I'm talking about. But CSX and KSU just reported this week, and those numbers weren't very good. Actually, KSU missed across the board. CSX was mixed, and then guidance was weak. So, I guess you could say maybe because those numbers were weak that it lowers the bar for UMP, and if UMP is strong, it could really go. But at the same time, I feel like these rails have been pretty closely correlated. So I don't know. It says like, it seems like it might be one of those steps we want to be a little bit more cautious just because CSX and KSU were on the weaker side. But, could be something, maybe like a lower debit position, something on the cheaper, just in case it is good. Maybe you get like a measured move up into like the 190s. VFC also Thursday before the open. So 5 points was priced in on VFC. We actually traded this one last quarter and it dropped about 9 points. So it's pricing in 5 this quarter. It moved 9 last quarter, and this quarter is the holiday quarter. So I don't know. Seems like there's like a disconnect in the option pricing potential and recent volatility and the importance of this earnings, right? So I'm thinking some sort of volatility strategy because it seems like the options are priced kind of low. All right, Thursday after the close, team. So a bigger software report. The pricing in 11 points, and we've traded a bunch of different software stocks recently, but for the most part, we haven't been trading them around earnings, and I think that's going to probably still be the plan, at least for the beginning of earnings season, just because I want to see these things start to get rewarded. I mean, for 2 quarters in a row now, like they have not been rewarding software stocks, so um, pricey options and bad responses to earnings is just not a good combination. So I'm not going to be playing team, or probably not going to be playing team. I'll see what they do. I'll see what they say. I'll see how the stock reacts, and then maybe I'll change my opinions on some of the other software stocks into their own reports. Intel, another big chip stock. So you can see like you got some big semi reports next week. 285 is what's priced in here, and this is the biggest of the ones next week. Had a strong beat and raise in October, so gap go. Stock is hanging out right at its 52-week high. It doesn't look as stretched as some of the other semis, and after last quarter, I feel like I'd be more bullish biased on this. It doesn't always have huge reactions, so I feel like the numbers are good. Maybe it keeps like grinding higher, so maybe look at some sort of like longer term um, bull position, so like a longer term call or longer term spread, just to see if like numbers are good and it keeps going. Kind of like ride that trend higher. Skyworks, so another semi. 8.5 points is what's priced in here. So this isn't an important Apple supplier, and it's up a ton going into earnings, and options are expensive. So I'm most likely not going to do anything with this. But Broadcom, so AVGO or Corvo, or maybe even Apple could potentially react to this, right? Because we haven't really gotten many Apple suppliers yet. Skyworks will be the first. Well, Taiwan Semi is the Apple supplier, so if this is like surprisingly good or surprisingly bad, maybe Apple moves off of that. But maybe like AVGO or Corvo, those two could react because those are some Apple suppliers as well. ISRG also Thursday after the close, but they guided back at the JP conference, and that removes a ton of the volatility. And I usually avoid companies that guide early, so I'm not going to do anything with this. And then last but not least, Friday before the open, American Express. So 375 is the price to move on this. Visa and MasterCard just absolute beasts, just continue to move higher. This looks very good too, but it's also like a little bit more of like a sharp move up into earnings, which kind of reminds me of almost like Goldman Sachs, just a really sharp move up into earnings and makes for an option trade into the earnings actually a lot tougher. So AXP, just a very sharp move up into earnings, which again makes the overall setup a lot tougher. Maybe if it pauses, because this won't be until Friday morning, so maybe if it pauses or even like pulls back, like the first couple days this week, maybe that'll open up the opportunity on it. But at this price, at this price, and at the pace it's rallying, it's probably going to be an avoid for me. Maybe look at Visa and MasterCard because maybe those will react. But overall, I mean, like Group looks great, but it's almost like too good, and I think expectations are just way too high. And I, at the moment, don't think that there's really a trade there. All right, so it's a short week, but a busy week, and it's really only going to get busier like the next few weeks into the beginning of February. So just a lot going on. A lot of earnings, a lot of scheduled news. Should be some great trading, So rest up, relax, enjoy the long holiday weekend, and I will talk to you guys all next week. All right. Um, if you do like these videos and you're looking for more information on earnings, on options education or options trading, specifically, as we get into earnings season, I'm going to do a lot of earnings trades. So please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. All right. I will talk to you guys. Get excited. Have a good one.